Oh, hey there. So I want to tell you a quick story. There was a king named David, okay? And a prophet named Nathan came to him. And he said, I need to tell you a story. This is what happened. And David's like, I'm all ears. Let's hear this story. And he said, there was two men in a town. There was a rich man and a poor man. The rich man had lots of sheep and lots of cattle. The poor man had one ewe lamb that he grew from a little baby. And he loved this lamb, and it grew into an adult, and he even slept with this lamb. And somebody came to visit the rich man, and rather than preparing one of his own animals for this guest to have food, he went and took the poor man's one lamb without permission. He took that lamb and he slaughtered it, and then he fed his guest. And David stood up and he goes, who is this guy? He needs to die. There needs to be justice brought to this guy. He'll pay 4 times as much as what the lamb's worth. Absolutely not. Not in my kingdom. Furious. He was just like, I need to see justice for this. And then Nathan looked him dead in the eyes and said, you are that man. You are the rich man. And here's why. Okay, let me backtrack just a little bit and tell you what was going on. It was early spring and all the kings were going off to war. David held back that year. And he was up on his rooftop and he looked down and he saw Bathsheba and she was bathing. And he was like, she's pretty hot. And he told his people, go get her. And he had sex with her. And then she got pregnant. But her husband was off in a battle fighting for David. So he's like, surely this guy can do some math. So he's going to know that this isn't his baby. And that's going to be a problem. Somebody's really cool. And so he's like, tell Uriah, that was the guy's name, tell Uriah, come home for a little bit. No reason, just come home and chill. And so Uriah does come home. And so Bathsheba's like, hey, we're married, let's do some married people stuff. And he's like, no. All my guys are out there and they're fighting and they're risking their lives. I'm not going to do that. That's not right. That dishonors all of them. Absolutely not. And he slept on the front porch outside. And then he left. And David's like, so, we good? And Bathsheba's like, nah, he didn't want to have sex with me. And he's like, what? And so he tried pretty hard to, make this happen, and it wasn't happening. And so finally, he went to the leader of the army, and he said, tell everybody to go out into the heat of battle. And then right when the enemy comes and attacks, you pull everybody back except for Uriah. No reason. And so the leader of the army is like, David said. So he sends everybody out. He pulls everybody back except for Uriah. Uriah ends up getting killed by the enemy. And then David's like, cool, that's my wife now. Bathsheba's now my wife. But nobody kind of necessarily knew, but Nathan called him out. And he's like, you are that man. And he said, I'll tell you what, because of what you've done, because you've dishonored God, you've dishonored this man, you dishonored her, he said, the sword will never leave your house. And it didn't. His son went to war with him, tried to steal his throne, all kinds of things. He had a bloody life. But while he was giving this verdict, David wept and he said, I'm so sorry. This has been eating away at me. I'm sorry. I want to repent for what I did. And Nathan's like, God has taken away your sin, but for the rest of your days, the sword will never leave your house. And the child that you guys conceived together will die. And so he fasted and he prayed and he laid himself in sackcloth and ashes, and nobody could comfort him until his baby died. And then finally he was like, I tried. There was no, I couldn't get God to change his mind. So now I'm going to go on and live my life. But then for the rest of his life, and everybody goes, yeah, but David did this bad stuff, and the Bible still calls him a man after God's own heart. And that is true. But there's also punishment for what he did. There are consequences for our actions, and even though he was a man after God's own heart, and even though he did make mistakes and he was forgiven, there were still consequences for his actions. I think it's an interesting story. I don't know exactly why I told you. Love you.